Baking for me was something that I've been doing since I was a kid. I understand how the appearance of food or the texture of it can change the experience. I still wanted to learn a bit more about how the other sensory inputs can change the way you experience food.
So when I see this macaroon, the number of senses that are involved, the very first thing is the colour that I see before picking it up. So what flavour does my brain think that's going to be? Well, one of the questions that the sort of scientists ask is, why would no one like a soggy macaron? So it's still all the sugars there, all the flavours there, but what's missing?
Why does something crisp?
Yeah.
Why does that enhance the experience?
There are certain kind of judgments and ideas, and when you put it to your mouth and you bite in, there are certain kind of textural cues and the sounds that you hear. You want that kind of crunch. That's what gives it the characteristics that we really enjoy.
And most people imagine that most of the information, because you're eating the food in your mouth, is coming from the taste buds that you find on the tongue. But I really think that most of our experience of taste, of the flavour of food, actually comes from the other senses.
As an anaesthetist, a large part of my job is dulling sensation, removing experience, so that people can handle trauma. And the baking is kind of the exact opposite of that. It's about giving people positive experiences, giving them those little bursts of joy.
So we've been doing lots of research between the psychology lab and Joseph's kitchen to try and put some of the ideas about how the senses come together in multi-sensory flavour. What we feel in our hands is really important. We very often say, that food tastes better when I eat it with my fingers. So I think our brain's already making expectations, predictions when we hold something.
So we know from research done with Oxford University's Professor Charles Spence that holding something like velvet or silk in hand tends to bring out sweeter, creamier, fattier types of perceptions of flavour, whereas rough textures like sandpaper or let's say exposed side of brick will tend to bring out saltier or bitter flavours.
We can't use a texture cube, I think, to create a taste out of nowhere. But if it's something going on in your mouth, then maybe we can use texture in order to bring out something in the tasting experience.
I felt like the crunchiness, the Velcro, it sort of drew my attention to it a bit more.
We can use that sort of cube to draw your attention to the crunch of the meringue, say.
People can see why I might want to be a doctor. I get asked a lot, but where does the baking fit in with all of that? But really, at their core, there's an artistry to both of those, and there's a precision to both of them. The human body is the most incredible machine, and learning how it works is an amazing thing. In terms of getting your dosages right for all the drugs, my job as an anaesthetist involves a lot of knowledge, a lot of theory. And that fits with the baking, because baking is all about the precision and the technique. There's an art to both of them in the end.
We have two sides of a plate here, one we're calling booba and one we're calling kiki. And what we've found is that people will tend to relate the word booba, which is a made-up word, to more kind of rounded shapes, and the word kiki that they associate with more angular shapes. What's quite interesting is you can actually kind of categorize a lot of ingredients according to whether we see them as being more booba or whether we see them as being more kiki. Banana, would that be booba or kiki?
Booba.
Lime?
Kiki.
So we have a sea bass ceviche, and here we have plantain, dauphines.
The nice thing about the dish is then to have the diners actually take part in the experiment. Booba, kiki, which one is which?
It's really about correlations between the colours and the shapes that we see on the dish and how we anticipate the flavours are going to match those expectations.
There's more to baking than just sustenance. You put so much love into what you're doing, and seeing the reactions in people when they appreciate that, it gives it so much more meaning. When you make macaroons, what you end up putting in the oven is this sort of weird looking goo, and what you get out at the end of it is something transformed. It's almost like alchemy.
Sound is kind of the forgotten flavour sense. People think about taste, they think about the smell, maybe what food looks like. No one mentions sound. We hear the sounds of preparations, the sounds from the coffee machine or the sound of the sizzle of the steak. Our brain is expecting, anticipating what's to come next, and that's where part of the pleasure resides.
We've also found through the research that we can actually heighten people's perception of crunchiness through the type of audio stimulation that they hear.
It's peculiar that of those 5 tastes, the sweet, the sour, the bitter, the salty and umami, loud noise, say in a restaurant, will suppress your ability to taste sweetness, but your ability to taste umami that you might get in parmesan or tomato, that's actually enhanced. So this loud background music in restaurants is doing different things to different tastes. So all of us, sensory scientists, anaesthetists, chef alike, experiences taste as if it's coming from the mouth, but in fact all the other senses are involved and our brain is just kind of gluing it all together and telling us it's happening there in your mouth.
Baking is giving someone that joyful experience when they bite into a cake, surprises, different textures. It's interesting to now understand how all these different sensory elements can all completely change the experience that you're having as a diner.